Now, as we've reported, Germany has been heavily criticized in the last year for its cautious approach to supporting Ukraine. Kyiv and other Western nations complained that there was too little too late coming from Germany. As our next report details, caution remains key for Chancellor Olaf Scholz, but he has loosened Germany's approach to wartime support to Ukraine.
5,000 helmets. That was the help Germany offered Ukraine before Russia invaded. Then Moscow attacked. Within days, Germany reversed its long-standing ban on sending weapons to conflict zones with a historic speech.
But with the attack on Ukraine, we have entered a new era. In Kyiv, Kharkiv, Odessa and Mariupol, people are not just defending their homeland, they are fighting for freedom and their democracy, for values that we share with them. As Democrats, as Europeans, we stand by their side, on the right side of history.
Scholz's government provided billions in financial and humanitarian aid, voted in favor of sanctions against Moscow, and took in more than 500,000 Ukrainian refugees over the course of the year. And it started approving deliveries of defensive weapons, anti-tank rockets, air defense systems, and armored vehicles, for example. For many Ukrainians, however, that was not enough. In the early days of the war, some Ukrainian officials felt Germany's political establishment was too close to Moscow.
Over the past decade, Steinmeier established a spider web of contacts with Russia. Many people who were involved in that now have a say in the German government.
That's a reference to German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier. He had offered to visit Ukraine in April last year, but Kyiv declined. Relations between Berlin and Kyiv were in the deep freeze. Then, long after other Western leaders, Chancellor Scholz made it to Kyiv, and German weapon deliveries started to pick up and make a difference on the battleground. Meanwhile, Germany had to wean itself off Russian coal, oil, and gas, and make sure there would still be enough energy for the winter ahead. Soaring energy bills put the public's will to support Ukraine to the test. Others feared their country could be dragged into the war itself. Germany has recently pledged to send the main battle tanks Kyiv has long been asking for. 1 year on from Russia's invasion, Berlin is now one of Ukraine's biggest backers.
And I want to talk about the German government's support for Ukraine now with Andrea Romela. She is a professor of communication in politics and civil society at the Hertie School here in Berlin. Welcome to the program, and thank you so much for joining us. As we've been hearing there, after the invasion of Ukraine, Chancellor Scholz hailed the Zeitenwende, or a turning point for German security policy. What do you make of what has happened since then?
Well, it really was a very big speech that happened exactly 1 year ago, because it marks a complete turnaround of our security policies, a strong support also financially for the Ukraine. But you already alluded that in your commentary, that Scholz and the government have been very slow. One has to keep in mind that especially in Scholz's party within the SPD, there are quite a number of politicians with formally close ties to Moscow, to Putin, and some of them came out saying that they completely misperceived the situation. You also just alluded to our president, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, who recently did give a couple of interviews saying that we were wrong. I think overall, Germany is doing a very good job in supporting the Ukraine, but I wish that Chancellor Scholz would communicate this stronger. I mean, he really has to talk his walk now.
So tell us then, I mean, I think you've alluded to it there, but Scholz has very much been criticized for being too hesitant in his support of Ukraine. Is that a fair criticism, or is it just his style of communication in your view?
I would say that to the larger extent, it is his way of communicating or not communicating. He remains very silent. And as I said before, I really think he has to talk his walk now and explain to the German broader public and to the larger and to the international world why Germany is supporting the Ukraine and why it is so absolutely necessary and important to continue doing that.
Germany has been supporting Ukraine with billions of euros, and this is both in military and humanitarian aid. Walk us through, I mean, since we have had this so-called turning point now in German security policy, how strong is the German public support for the efforts?
The support is still very, very strong. It's over 50% of the German population actually supports the government on the expenditures, on the support for the Ukraine. Civil society really does a lot in helping the Ukrainian refugees. I mean, if you in March, April, May, and all through the summer, the thousands of Ukrainian refugees coming to the Berlin train station, it was really wonderful to see German civil society also being so active. So the support is there, but the big question is, how long will the support be there? And it will for sure be stronger and longer if we have a government that also talks to the population.
Andrea Romola, a professor of communication in politics in civil society. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for having me.